In Hays County, Texas, located northwest of Wimberley, Texas, lies Jacob's Well, an artesian karst spring. A spring is a natural exit where groundwater comes out of an aquifer, in this case the Trinity Aquifer, and collects on top of the Earth's crust so it turns into surface water. It becomes a karst spring specifically when the entire process takes place in an area where the disintegration of rock has created fissures and fractures, and the water must travel through a network of openings and channels, aka a karst hydrological system. Jacob's Wells rock was soft, porous limestone strata that include the Lower Glen Rose, Hensel, and Cow Creek formations. The spring was first discovered in the early 1850s by William C. Winters, an early settler of Wimberley, who was hiking Cypress Creek to find the source of the body of water. In his journey, he discovered the spring, claiming "like unto a well" in Bible times, which is the reason the spring is named Jacob's Well. The deep structure of the tunnel makes it the second largest fully submerged cave in Texas, with the deepest part of the cave system stretching 140 feet from the surface. The area is a popular swimming hole for people and excellent for diving into the caves, but it also provides habitats to several species. The Wimberley Valley Watershed Association is a nonprofit organization that works to keep Jacob's Well clean, clear, and flowing. It was formed in December 1996 by David Baker, who joined together with local landowners to protect Jacob's Well and Cypress Creek and confront the water issues of the area. Their motto is Land, Water, Connection, and their mission is to remind people of the responsibility they have to the watershed so that communities can build a connected and respectful relationship with the land that benefits both parties. They are constantly trying to implement water policies and practices for ecological sustainability. Jacob's Well runs through the center of the square in Wimberley, Texas, the city of Wood Creek, and the Blue Hole swimming area. The goal is for Jacob's Well to provide and flow clean water into Cypress Creek, an area essential to the culture and economy of Wimberley Valley. Previously, they have worked with the Jacob's Well exploration project several times, the first being their participation in the year 2000 research project that sent divers to map and obtain video and photo evidence of the cave system. Since then, they have been involved in a majority of the explorations of the well, including working with the JWEP for biological and water quality investigations. The Watershed Association works closely with the JWEP because the team provides information on the history, hydrology, and biology of Jacob's Well.
In addition to the beauty and importance of Jacob's Well as a watershed, the spring also functions as a critical habitat for native wildlife. Jacob's Well is home to an incredible variety of aquatic and non-aquatic creatures that inhabit the caves and surrounding areas. These creatures include several reptiles, such as red-eared sliders, Texas cooters, and the six-lined race runner. There are also several freshwater fish, including cichlids, sunfish, perch, and our own state fish, the Guadalupe bass. But perhaps most fascinating are the host of rare and unique species that inhabit the deeper parts of the cave system. Some of these, like the Mexican blind cat, dwell only in deep underwater areas like Jacob's Well, whereas others are also adapted to the spring. One species that can swim between both is the fern-bank salamander, sometimes known as the Blanco River spring salamander. This incredible animal is most often found close to the surface of springs, but recently, researchers have also sampled populations from deep within Jacob's Well. It's an important location for further study of this species, especially as it's one of the few underwater cave systems large and accessible enough for scientists to observe the salamanders at previously unseen depths. What's more, this isn't the only species currently being studied at Jacob's Well. Recently, biologists discovered a new species of amphipod that coexists alongside 3 other previously recorded species, all of which are thought to fill different ecological niches. Named in honor of David Baker, founder of the Wimberley Watershed Association, continued study of these animals is a high priority for researchers, especially as current conservation challenges threaten water quality and quantity within their native habitat. Currently, experts are concerned about what may happen without further conservation action focused on the spring. Right now, desired future conditions within Groundwater Management Area 9 expect a 30-foot average decline in water levels through 2060. If this happens, they say it would cause Jacob's Well to completely cease flowing, making the spring habitat inaccessible for salamanders and possibly even changing the nutrient flow of the cave. What's more, there's no telling how this change in nutrient flow or habitat access might affect the other animals that live in Jacob's Well, especially as further study is still needed in order for researchers to gain a better understanding of the salamander and amphipod species that live there. If the spring were to stop flowing, we risk destroying one of the few habitats where such study is even possible, which is just one reason why continued protection of Jacob's Well is so important.
Continuing our discussion, I will be going into detail about the environmental justice standpoints of Jacob's Well. Back in 2011, there was a developmental fight between the developer, Wimberley Springs Partners, and the environmental group, the Wimberley Valley Watershed Association. Wimberley Spring Partners wanted permission to pump more underground water from the Trinity Aquifer, which is the same aquifer that feeds into Jacob's Well. They wanted to do this for a growing subdivision and a new golf course in the area that was being built. If they were to pump water out of the Trinity Aquifer, it would cause significant and ecological damage due to the lack of water and droughts from previous years. In late 2011, there was a vote to grant William Spring Partners permission to pump 160 gallons from the aquifer to start the building process. This is more than enough water to supply the water needs of about 1,500 homes. The Watershed Association says that more pumping could dry up the spring, which will result in robbing Cypress Creek, a tributary of the Blanco River. With Jacob's Well being in Wimberley, it was said that there would be economic consequences for the town, with its shops, collectibles, and for its most famous swimming hole named the Blue Hole. The conversation and lawsuit went on for about a year or two, and Russ Johnson, an attorney for Wimberley Spring Partners, said he planned to appeal the judge's decision of granting the permit to pump water out of Trinity's aquifer. Additionally, to elaborate from our discussion of the Blanco River, the river is an important resource for water supplies in Texas. Some communities and properties, including Jacob's Well, use the surface water directly. The Blanco River supplies water to a population of around several 100,000 people, and water originally flowing in the Blanco River provides flow to springs that host a number of endangered species. The Blanco River also has a significant role of providing recharge, which is when water seeps into the ground to replenish underground aquifers to the Trinity and Edwards aquifers. Jacob's Well Spring discharges into Cypress Creek, which joins the Blanco River at about 8 kilometers downstream of Jacob's Well. Decreasing the base flows will impact the ecology of the hill country, flow in the Blanco River, and recharge to the Edwards Aquifer under drought conditions, which will worsen the water availability and ecological issues. Scientists and activists are looking at the potential for increasing recharge to the Trinity and Edwards aquifers by modification of sinkholes to allow greater inflow of surface water, or to consider installation of dams below stretches of gaining streams. By highlighting and understanding natural water resources like Jacob's Well, the importance of preventing ecological and economic consequences of the environment is identified and pushes for the environment's care of its future.
Jacob's Well originates from the Middle Trinity Aquifer. This aquifer is the most important supply of groundwater in the region, and changes in the aquifer are reflected in the water level of Jacob's Well itself. For this reason, Jacob's Well is an important drought indicator. A report from the Meadows Center in 2019 described recent efforts to conserve the groundwater that contributes to Jacob's Well. Recently, the Board of Directors for the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District designated an area where they plan to try out new strategies to preserve spring flow. This group of researchers found the spots that most influence water levels at Jacob's Well, called recharge areas, and they plan to reduce the amount of pumping there. Some things they suggest in order to offset the effects of this reduction are maintaining alternate water supplies using aquifer storage, developing the Lower Trinity Aquifer, as well as rainwater harvesting. But a more recent study from 2021 examined the ongoing work that the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District is doing. Groundwater is the most important water source for rural communities and agriculture in the state. It provides 60% of all water that is used by the state of Texas each year. And according to the study, around 46,000 rural residents in the Jacob's Well area rely on the supply wells that withdraw water from the Trinity Aquifer. Jacobs Well itself generates around $200,000 in park fee revenue for Hays County, so it's an important resource on a number of levels. But the Jacobs Well area in particular faces declining groundwater levels. An increasing number of drinking wells in the area are going dry as well. Before 2000, there was never a record of Jacobs Well going dry in recorded history, but after 2000, it has ceased flows 7 times. To protect this valuable resource, it was vital for the Conservation District officials to study the history of the area in order to learn which parts of the aquifer were most in need of protection during droughts. It was also important to increase stakeholder engagement by creating a committee to reach an agreement on ways to protect Jacobs Well. The committee consisted of all the people who had an interest in what happened to the area: Hays County commissioners, well owners, water supply companies, scientists, business owners, and developers. All agreed that preservation of Jacobs Well was vital to the health of their community, and they committed to measures to cut back on pumping. Overall, this study demonstrates the importance of collaboration when we were searching for ways to protect places like Jacobs Well. We must involve all people with a stake in the process, from scientists to landowners to those in the government. Only when we commit together to preservation of our state's natural resources will we begin to make any progress. In many ways, we can use Jacobs Well as a metric to determine how global warming is affecting our communities as well as the animal species here in Texas. The effects of global warming are apparent in the decreasing water levels of the Trinity Aquifer, and in the droughts that have threatened Jacobs Well in the past 20 years more so than ever before. This crisis affects the creatures that inhabit Jacobs Well, but it also affects the people who get water from the originating spring, as well as the ability of the surrounding towns to survive the years and bring in enough revenue to thrive. Jacobs Well is a symbol of the wider struggle to preserve our natural resources, a struggle that affects us all because of our fundamental interconnection with the environment. Now, more than ever, it is important to protect places like Jacobs Well. The energy we put into maintaining these beautiful natural spaces reflects the energy we are putting into our future.